What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We are, what's this, week 2 of this transition block. So probably another like 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks potentially, of this lower volume sort of transition block between prep. So taking you guys through my arms and shoulder days. So this was basically like an optional session. The program kind of stated 4 training days, literally just upper lower, upper lower. This one was just thrown in for a bit of extra variety, a bit of extra frequency, and just to kind of top up a little bit of volume for arms and delts, which aren't getting a ton of volume during this program anyway. So I'll show you guys this one. It's a very straightforward session. 2 delts, 2 bicep, 2 tricep, and that's pretty much it. So it's only about 8 to 12 working sets, I believe, on paper. But the main thing that I want to get through with this session is just some different variations. So we're in a different gym today. So for me, I'm not too concerned about like really being anal with my progressions and like logbook progressions and everything. It's a bit more fun, a bit more variety. The main thing that I'm trying to get across all these workouts is just keeping the effort of intensity nice and high. So staying within a pretty close proximity to failure. And I think that's a pretty decent point to get across to most people. If you're changing gyms or if you have like a different setup each workout, it's not that bad so long as you are training hard. And I think that's the main thing that needs to go across most people's training is the effort of intensity needs to be high regardless of the program, regardless of how much volume you are doing. Just train fucking hard. Oh. One big point I want to bring up, lagging muscle groups and how to train lagging muscle groups to bring them up. I think this is a really hot topic of conversation about how to do it. And a lot of people are in the camp of just do more stuff. So just throw more volume, throw more exercises to grow that muscle. When 9 times out of 10, I think the reason that most people have lagging muscle groups is the way they train. So their technique sucks, their execution sucks, maybe their setup sucks, and maybe the exercises they're choosing suck. So instead of doing more stuff, I think what most people need to do is peel back a lot of stuff, choose exercises that give them really good stimulus, that take them through a really full range of motion, and that they connect well with to get stimulus to that target muscle. Execute at a really, really high intensity so you're training very close to fail with really good technique. Start with the lowest possible volume that you can. And I think when we're looking at the research, somewhere between like 6, maybe 10 sets a week is probably enough. Once you've nailed that, then all you need to do is simply make small load and or volume progressions over a really long period of time. And I think that is really the key in terms of bringing up lagging muscle groups. Ooh. So another big tip for training lagging muscle groups or bringing up weak muscle groups, you guys know about this one, is training it first in the workout. So we direct the most stimulus to the muscles we're trying to train first in the workout. But the second point is using a unilateral exercise. So what we have is something called a bilateral strength deficit, which is a fancy word for saying the brain has to direct stimulus to two muscle groups when we do a bilateral exercise. When we use a single arm exercise or a unilateral exercise, like we did here, the single arm lateral raise, we direct all the stimulus to that muscle group that we're working, and because we're doing it first in the workout, it's like a double whammy for extra stimulus to really hammer that muscle group and allow it to grow. And like I spoke about before, rather than doing more stuff, it's about doing the right stuff and then doing it in the right doses or volumes. All right, exercise 2 of this was the seated shoulder press machine. So I think shoulder press is one of those exercises that like people like to argue about whether or not they should do it or they shouldn't do it. And I could argue that shoulder press is probably one of those things that you don't necessarily need to do. If your goal is to grow your shoulders, you probably spend a lot more time doing lateral raise variations, rear delt fly variations, and your anterior delts get a lot of stimulus from any pressing that you're doing, whether it's flat, incline, dumbbell, barbell, doesn't really matter too much. But if you spend a lot more time doing lateral raises and rear delts, you probably get bigger shoulders. And especially as you get bigger and stronger, a lot of guys, myself included, really struggle with external rotation. So doing a lot of overhead pressing can cause a lot of issues in the shoulders, biceps, elbows. So for that matter, I would generally do it later in the workout. I'd probably do it lighter for higher reps, and I probably just wouldn't do it that much anyway. And if I was to do it, I'd generally do it on more of a high incline, so it ends up more of an upper pec / anterior delt exercise rather than a strict overhead or barbell press. All right, so to finish off shoulders, machine rear delt flies. Rear delts are one of those funny ones. I think you don't need to do a lot. when you're training back, so for example, if you're doing like back twice a week, you might be doing, 10, 12, 15 sets of back a week. A lot of the exercises that you're doing for back train the rear delts pretty damn effectively. So when we're looking at programming rear delts, you probably only need a couple of working sets, maybe twice a week, to kind of finish them off, maybe in a more lengthened range, because a lot of the times rear delts with rowing and stuff like that, you're just training them in that shortened position. So getting more into that lengthened range, whether it's sort of machine rear delt fly, whether it's a single arm cable, just something that takes the rear delts into a nice big stretch. Again, don't need lots of load, don't need lots of sets, and I think it's one of those muscles that people really try and push the load, and they use shitty technique. For example, the machine rear delt fly we're doing now, you don't need to use the whole stack. Rear delts are a tiny muscle. You really only need to stimulate that. You're not trying to take in all your scap retractors, your upper back, your rhomboids. So with that rear delt fly, it's really a case of reaching forward, so protracting those scapulas, and then just going through that plane of motion that really trains the rear delts. And if you do it properly, you don't need lots of load for that. Ow. So finishing this one off, 2 sets of biceps. And on paper, literally like this week alone, I've only got 4 sets of biceps programmed, arguably. And then I've tacked on a little bit of extra in this last workout. So one thing that I want to get across to most people is training frequency. So when it comes to training frequency, I think that will really dictate how much you can train and the quality of your training. So what we know about hypertrophy now is the subsequent sets after your first working set are basically less stimulative. So your first set gives the most stimulus to the target muscle. Each subsequent set is less stimulative. Basically, the premise of what we want to try and achieve with our programming is we want more first sets throughout the training week. So if we can hit biceps 3 times a week, maybe 2 working sets on Monday, 2 working sets on Wednesday, 2 working sets on Friday. On paper, we've only got 6 working sets, but they're really good quality, they're really highly stimulative, which I'd argue is probably better for muscle growth in the long run. The last exercise of this arms and delts workout was just cross-body cable tricep extensions, 2 working sets, 10 to 15 reps, pretty close to fail. So one thing when it comes to tricep training, I think it's very complicated, or people are getting very confused with how they should train their triceps, what exercises they should do to train like the long head or the medial head or lateral head. And I think it's way too convoluted and too complicated for most people to even worry about or need to worry about. So when we come to training the triceps effectively, you really only need a couple of things. You probably need some sort of pressing variation. And if we think about the triceps, you have basically the long head of the tricep, which is a 2-joint muscle. So it kind of crosses the elbow, it crosses the shoulder. So when we're doing any close grip pressing, the long head of the tricep isn't as active. So you train more of the lateral and medial heads, where with more tricep press down variations with the arms either by your side or potentially over your head, you train the long head more effectively. So when it comes to designing your program, you probably only need a variation of each of those, a press and a push down, and how you do them, what type of attachment you do, whether you do it single arm or 2 arms, it doesn't really matter. You just have to find the variation that fits for you and then figure out which variation fits into your program based on the volume targets, the reps that you're using, and your weekly training setup.